Concepts related to self. Self-concept. According to Plotnik and Kuyumjan 2014, self-concept refers to how people see or describe themselves. Self-concept is learned and not inherent. We form and regulate our self-concept as we grow based on the knowledge we have about ourselves. Self-concept is also influenced by biological and environmental factors, but social interaction plays a big role as well. Self-theory. This theory is regarded as humanistic and is a move towards recognizing human potential for psychological growth. Self theory emphasizes that the self is made up of many self perceptions, abilities, and personality characteristics that are organized and consistent with one another. Self theory was proposed by Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers is a prominent psychologist and one of the founding members of the humanist movement. Carl Rogers focused on the growth potential of healthy individuals and greatly contributed to our understanding of the self and the personality. So, self concept can either be positive or negative. Positive self concept. People with positive self concept tend to act, feel, and think constructively and optimistically. Negative self concept. People who have negative self concept behave, think, and act with pessimism. They do not believe in their ability to do things or carry out certain tasks. For example, a person with positive self concept will see himself as a smart person. But on the flip side, person with negative self concept sees himself as stupid or slow. Positive or negative self concept reflects a dominant or prevailing trend of positivism or negativism in the self. For example, if a person is labeled as having a positive self concept, it means that his or her prevailing behavior and general outlook on himself are on the positive side. However, it does not necessarily mean that the person does not have any low or negative thoughts or ideas about oneself. It is just the prevailing positive outlook that characterizes a person as having a positive self image or self concept. In like manner, a person who has a negative self concept may also have a positive or high point in his or her self concept. So, there are two kinds of selves: the real self and the ideal self. The real self is the image or picture of the self based on a person's actual experiences and represents how he or she really sees himself or herself. In addition, it is what one thinks he or she is in terms of personal characteristics and abilities. In contrast, ideal self is the self based on one's hopes and wishes. In other words, it reflects how one likes himself or herself to be.
Discrepancy in self-concept. Rogers, 1953, states that there is usually a contradiction or discrepancy between the real self and the ideal self. An obscure view of the self may result in a wide discrepancy between the real self and the ideal self. Failure to achieve the ideal self may lead to a loss in self-concept. Thus, the individual might develop a negative self-concept of the self and could lead to feelings of failure. For example, John who likes science. His grades in science are considered as average and many of his classmates in fact have higher grades than he has. However, he hopes and dreams of making scientific discoveries and becoming an eminent scientist in the future. To work out the discrepancy between John's actual science performance and his dream to become a scientist, he has to work at positive experiences. It means that he has to put in more hours of study, visit scientific facilities, or participate in activities like science fairs and exhibits. That way, the difference between his actual performance in science and his desired performance becomes smaller. It is alright if the ideal self is slightly out of reach, as it is just enough to stimulate the person to improve himself However, if the ideal self is unrealistically difficult to reach, then it could lead to feelings of failure. The self-discrepancy theory states that individuals compare their actual self to internalized standards of or the ideal self. Inconsistencies between actual, ideal, and out are associated with emotional discomforts. Also, this theory proposes that people represent a negative life event as saying something about their current state, their actual self now. This actual self is compared with their self-guides, the kind of person they want to or desire to be.
Positive regard. According to Liebert and Spiegler in 1994, positive regard is believed to be important for the healthy development of one's self-concept and for successful interpersonal relationships. So positive regards includes love, sympathy, warmth, acceptance, and respect. Love. According to the Bible in the book of Corinthians, love is patient, is kind, does not envy, does not boast, is not proud, is not self-seeking, is not easily angered, always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. The sympathy is the understanding between people with a common feeling. Warmth is the enthusiasm, affection, or kindness. Acceptance is the willingness to tolerate a difficult or unpleasant situation and agreement with a belief in an idea, opinion, or explanation. Respect is an attitude of consideration or high regard. The second one is the conditional positive regard, which refers to positive regard received as a result of acceptable behavior or living up to the expectation and standards of others. For example, of conditional positive regard is a teacher may reward student for passing the test. And the last one is the unconditional positive regard, which refers to the love and acceptance received by a person regardless of who he or she is or what he or she does. For example, parents may still love and respect their child flunks an exam.
So, now we talk about self-esteem. First, let's talk about personality and social development. Personality and social development refer to how a person's sense of self or self-identity, relationships with others, and skills necessary for social interactions evolve. Personal or self-identity explains how people describe themselves in terms of values, goals, traits, and perception unique to them. It is closely related to self-esteem, or self-esteem means how much people value themselves or their worth as a person. Self-esteem is a level of importance attributed to oneself and one's abilities. One may put high value or a low value on his or her worth as a person. In many ways, self-esteem relates to a person's attractiveness or social competence. It is likewise associated with important positive or negative outcomes. For example, a high self-esteem is correlated with healthy social relationships, being emotionally and socially adjusted, cheerfulness, and overall happiness, of course. On the other hand, when we talk about low self-esteem, it is associated with negative outcomes like depression, anxiety, antisocial behavior, and poor personal adjustment. Self-esteem is a distinct idea from self-concept, as self-concept refers to the knowledge of oneself or the image of a person's view, perceptions, or description of himself or herself in terms of certain characteristics. So, self-esteem talks more about your importance of yourself and your abilities. On the other hand, you know, self-concept talks about your knowledge and image or your idea on something as a person, for yourself. So why do we need to have a high self-esteem? One should strive to develop a high self-esteem because it determines his or her kind of personal and social relationships. Holding a good feelings about oneself results in flexibility and adaptability to situations and people. On the other hand, a low self-esteem may lead to poor social relationships. So that's my topic, and the next reporter will be reporting.
Self-actualization or self-fulfillment. According to Abraham Maslow in 1943, he stated that a self-actualizing person has reached the highest level of his or her personal development and fully realized his or her potential as a human being. So, self-actualization can be defined as the realization of one's full potential. This includes all form of potential, for example, creative potential, intellectual potential, social potential, and so on. Maslow also writes that what a man can be, he must be. These needs we may call self-actualization. In other words, the need to become what one has the potential to be. This is the core purpose that one's life should be centered around to fully realize their potential. Hierarchy of needs. Maslow first introduced his concept of hierarchy of needs in his 1943 paper, A Theory of Human Motivation. But later on, Maslow refined this theory in 1954 with his book entitled Motivation and Personality. Since then, this theory has remained a popular subject in sociology, management training, and psychology classes. Hierarchy suggests that people are motivated to fulfill basic needs before moving on to other more advanced needs. So, there are 5 main levels to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. These levels begin from the most basic needs to the most advanced needs. Maslow originally believed that a person needed to completely satisfy one level to begin pursuing further levels. And lastly, Maslow organized human needs into a pyramid that includes from lowest level to highest level. The psychological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and the self-actualization. So, the ultimate goal according to this theory is to reach the 5th level of hierarchy, which is the self-actualization.
So the first one is the physiological needs. This is the most basic human survival needs. It includes food and water, sufficient rest, clothing and shelter, overall health and reproduction. Maslow states that these basic physiological needs must be addressed before humans move on to the next level of fulfillment. People would first be concerned with satisfying these needs over the others. Second is the safety and security. Safety needs include protection from violence and theft, emotional stability and well-being, health security, and financial security. It is necessary for everyone, but more special for those who live in the dangerous area. Next, love and belonging. Physical and emotional intimacy ranging from sexual relationships to intimate emotional bonds are important to achieving a feeling of elevated kinship. Adults and adolescents who are starting to look for serious relationships are particularly concerned with satisfying the needs at this level. Additionally, membership in social groups contributes to meeting this need, from belonging to a team of co-workers to forging an identity in a union, club, or group of hobbyists. Self-esteem, the higher needs. Beginning with esteem are ego-driven needs. The primary elements of esteem are self-respect, the belief that you are valuable and deserving of dignity, and self-esteem is a confidence in your potential for personal growth and accomplishments. Maslow specifically notes that self-esteem can be broken into 2 types: esteem, which is based on respect and acknowledgement from others, and esteem which is based on your own assessment. Self-confidence and independence stem from this latter type of esteem. Self-actualization describes the fulfillment of your full potential as a person, full development of one's unique potential. Only few individuals reach this level because the process of achieving this is difficult and challenging. This five-stage model can be divided into deficiency needs and growth needs. The first four levels are often referred to as deficiency needs or D needs, and the top level is known as growth or being B needs. Deficiency needs arise due to deprivation and are said to motivate people when they are unmet. Also, the motivation to fulfill such needs will become stronger the longer the duration they are denied. For example, the longer a person goes without food, the more hungry they will become. Maslow initially stated that individuals must satisfy lower level deficit needs before progressing on to meet higher level growth needs. However, he later clarified that satisfaction of a needs is not an all or none phenomenon, admitting that his earlier statements maybe have given the false impression that a need must be satisfied 100% before the next need emerge. When a deficit need has been more or less satisfied, it will go away, and our activities become habitually directed towards meeting the next set of needs that we have yet to satisfy. These then become our salient needs. However, growth needs continue to be felt and may even become stronger once they have been engaged. Growth needs do not stem from a lack of something, but rather from a desire to grow as a person. Once these growth needs have been reasonably satisfied, one may be able to reach the highest level called self-actualization. Every person is capable and has the desire to move up the hierarchy toward a self-actualization. Unfortunately, progress is often disrupted by a failure to meet lower level needs. Life experiences, including divorce and loss of job, may cause an individual to fluctuate between levels of hierarchy. Therefore, not everyone will move through the hierarchy in a unidirectional manner, but may move back and forth between the different types of needs. Additionally, five-stage model has been expanded to include cognitive and aesthetic needs and later transcendence needs.
Let's talk about the characteristics of self-actualized person. Studying a highly productive and exceptional personalities, Maslow 1971 described the characteristics of self-actualizing or self-actualized person or individuals. Some of the personalities he studied include Martin Luther King Jr., Eleanor Roosevelt, and Albert Einstein. A number of his findings on the traits of self-actualizing person are as follows. They have reached a high level of moral development and are more concerned with the welfare of loved ones, friends, and humanity in general than themselves. They are usually committed to some cause or task rather than working for fame or money. They focus as well on accomplishing their goal. They tend to be problem-centered. Self-actualized individuals are often motivated by a strong sense of personal ethics and responsibilities. While self-actualized people have concrete goals, they don't see things as simply a means to an end. They enjoy applying their problem-solving skills to real-world situations and they like helping other people improve their own lives. Next one is they are open, honest, and have the courage to act on their convictions even if it makes them unpopular, not particularly interested in fads, fashion, or social customs. These people enjoy friends but are not dependent on their company or approval. They are able to enjoy the humor in situations and laugh at themselves, but they don't ridicule or joke at the expense of another person's feelings. They enjoy privacy, independence, and autonomy, and their feelings for close friends are intensely rather positive and caring. They prefer deep, loving relationship with only a few person. Self-actualized people also tend to be very independent. They don't conform to other people's ideas of happiness or contentment. This original perspective allows the individuals to live in the moment and appreciate the beauty of each experience. Self-actualized individuals value their privacy and enjoy solitude, while they also love the company of others. Taking time to themselves is essential for their personal discovery, and cultivating their individual potential. They have an accurate, concrete, and realistic rather than romanticized view of people and life, and yet they are positive about life. Rather than being fearful of things that are different or unknown, the self-actualized individual is able to view life as it unfolds both logically and rationally, accept themselves and others as they are. These are moments of transcendence in which a person emerges feeling changed and transformed. Next one is life is always challenging and fresh to self-actualizing individuals. They are natural, spontaneous in their action and feelings. They likewise experience moments of great joy and satisfaction. While these people are able to follow generally accepted social expectations, they don't feel confined by these norms in their thoughts or behaviors. Conclusion. Using the term of self-actualizing rather than self-actualized means that attaining self-actualization is a continuous and lifelong process of improvement. While only a few individuals reach this level, everyone has a self-actualizing tendency. It is important that at any level or stage in the hierarchy of needs, individuals strive to move towards self-actualization. So while you have not yet reached the level of self-actualization at this point in your life, as it may take a lifetime to do so, you can already create a plan or target to attain self-actualization or self-fulfillment. That's all. Thank you.